Hello and welcome to this special podcast all about farm assurance, brought to you by the National Federation of Young Farmers Clubs. You may well have heard about the potential benefits of getting involved with farm assurance, or alternatively you may be unsure whether it's the right step to take, but either way, this programme is all about introducing you to assurance schemes and hopefully answering any questions that you might have at this point. My name is Ben Eagle and I'm joined today by Robin Levin, who is the Agricultural Relationship Manager for the UK and Ireland at SAI Global Assurance Services. Robin's career has spanned mixed farming, sales, management consultancy, agronomy, and farm and food assurance. He's also a former YFC member, and as he assures me, once a young farmer, always a young farmer. Robin, thanks for coming on to give us your thoughts. Could you start by introducing farm assurance schemes, giving some key examples perhaps, and also explaining what SAI's role is in the process?
Thank you, Ben, and hello to everyone. Examples of the schemes in the UK would be Red Tractor Assured, such as beef and lamb, combinable crops and sugar beet, fresh produce, dairy and poultry, amongst others. SAI Global's role is that of a certification body, and we deliver the assurance certification on behalf of the standard owners. And the standard owners would also include bodies like LeafMark, and several retail specific standards. And outside of the UK, there are various international schemes such as Global Gap.
Perfect. I mean, on a practical level, what's involved when a farmer signs up for a farm assurance scheme? What will, for example, will they be asked to do that they might not already be doing?
Yeah, well, getting acquainted with the scheme standards and rules is the sort of first thing to think about, and to that end the full list of the standards and what's involved with each of the standards, as well as indicating what the farmer needs to show that they're complying. So learn the boundaries involved and the rules, if you like, and get ready for that first farm assessment, with new areas being considered, things like being compliant with good agricultural practice all the year round, maintaining records to show this, and developing a system to make it as easy as possible.
Just on a personal level, can you remember your first inspection?
I can remember my very first inspection as an inspector, which was quite a long time ago. Now, I guess it was a good 20 years ago. That was going to a beef and lamb farmer in Oxfordshire.
Okay.
And yeah, really good fun. Never forgotten it. I'm sure they've forgotten me, but I've never.
I'm not sure about that. So clearly, there's been lots of reasons why producers decide to go down this line. What are the main reasons, though, that producers decide to sign up for a scheme?
I guess it's a realisation, particularly from their buyers, that by being assured can widen the spectrum of market opportunities for the produce on the farm. You know, the older traditional ways of marketing are what they are and fantastic. But now perhaps people need a bit more confidence that everything's in order and meets sort of industry requirements, as well as an increasingly aware consumer who has a lot more technology available to start questioning and go, well, where's that come from? And so on.
And at the same time, you must come across people who are, say, more reluctant to sign up to a scheme. What are the key concerns that producers tend to have?
I think with anything new, we're all similar, aren't we? You know, if it's something you've not done before and you're not familiar with, there are always barriers. And of course, you'll listen sometimes to friends and colleagues who probably don't really think of it from your point of view and might be a bit negative.
Yeah.
We get questions like, well, you know, all the paperwork, and I don't like computers, and I haven't the time available to do all these documents.
Yeah, I can imagine that's a big one.
Yeah, I don't know what the benefits are and all that sort of thing. So and sometimes people actually say, well, it's just us British that do this, no one else does it. And of course, that's so wrong. The rest of the world is doing their various things too. So
let's turn to the auditing process itself. What happens when an auditor visits a farm, and what happens after the visit?
Well, firstly, all of our auditors, inspectors, assessors are farmer friendly. They're specifically trained and experienced to deliver farm assurance, and the farmer kind of needs to relax and say, okay, I'm in the hands of a professional here. They'll call and make a mutually convenient time. They'll talk through the requirements for the audit, just help settle any nerves really as well. they'll arrive for the audit and they'll have shared a plan in advance of that audit. So the farmer's got a good idea of what's going to happen and where, and the auditor will kind of just take them through it. They'll want to look at what's actually happening outside in the yard and in the fields and so on, and also then check the records and so on, all of which can be seen in advance by the farm.
Yeah.
The confidence in impartiality is core to everything, so the farmer doesn't need to worry about that sort of thing. And now we can do remote and on-site audits. And after the visit, the report's shared immediately back with the farmer, and the certification team back in the offices are ready to help and discuss any technical elements that are needed.
I mean, a lot of this, you could say that it's actually about efficiency as well. I mean, how can signing up to a scheme improve the efficiencies of a business? And ultimately, I suppose, return on investment, which is what a lot of this is about.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of return on investment, I guess the sort of obvious way that people will first look at is if I can access a different market. Obviously, that might give me either a solidity of income coming in or maybe even a small increase, which in itself will pay for the time involved and the cost of the audit, which is only relatively small, particularly depending on the size of the business. But also that sense of everyday compliance, knowing that you are meeting whatever's out there as required as good agricultural compliance and practice, is that gives you then time to sit and think. You've developed systems for recording. You've got time then to sit and think about how you can improve things and just make them a bit better.
What about farmers who are looking to improve specifically environmental outcomes? Why should they consider a scheme? And I suppose I'm thinking at the back of my mind here, moving towards elms specifically.
Yeah, well, all the schemes have got important environmental areas for compliance. It could be something such as minimising the risk of contamination of water, for example, with fertiliser spreading and spray application, making sure that it's done according to a standard, a good practice. And similarly with medicines and all those sort of things have a big effect on environment. And then there's specific environmental schemes such as Leaf Mark, based on integrated farm management. And in particular, I think elms, however it finally develops, will consider farm assurance, particularly red tractor and leaf, as a sort of prerequisite for just helping farmers through whatever that scheme ends up being.
You mentioned on an inspections front, on a visits front, you no longer have to be actually on site to do one of those, which of course this year that has been flagged up significantly. I mean, what has the impact of COVID been on assurance schemes? I'm assuming auditing has been undertaken in a slightly different way.
Well, we've introduced remote auditing as a preferred option, particularly during lockdown. And quite a few of our members have actually said that they've been shielding or were concerned about it. And we're also concerned primarily about them, and we're concerned about our own staff.
Yeah, for sure.
And so developed through Red Tractor initially and Leaf, we were the first CB to be accredited by UCAS for remote farm assurance. And the difference is the standard owners have developed a portal for members to upload documents ahead of a video-based live farm tour. And that's where farms have connectivity and technology.
We've mentioned elms briefly, but what about future policy generally with a new agriculture bill in place? What impact might that have on the farm assurance scheme model, do you think?
Well, I think when the dust finally settles on exactly how the new bill will be implemented, then any changes necessary for assurance will be considered and implemented by the standard owners, but it's the standard owners that will make these changes. Standards are being evaluated all the time by every standard owner, and they're shared with their stakeholders for comment and appreciation, and this will continue throughout any changes. The future is really exciting.
We talk a lot about potential for collaboration and cooperation in the industry, especially with young farmers. And surely there are opportunities here for younger farmers who may be able to help, say, other producers who may not have the time or the technical know-how to undertake aspects of schemes to comply. Do you think there is an opportunity here for younger farmers?
Oh, yes. I think many young farmers have strong technical skills And these can be brought to help more traditional minds to meet records, documents, information sharing, compliance, and perhaps even looking at new systems on a farm to help meet assurance standards. So I think that's a great argument that young farmers could get involved, help community, maybe a career opportunity as well.
Yeah, lots of options there. Do you think that younger farmers will embrace farm assurance on a wider level compared to where we have been before?
I think so. I think a lot of colleges now and universities actually talk about farm assurance as part of the sort of education at university. I think today's young farmers are grown up understanding technology and how it can be applied, especially with farm assurance. I think they appreciate perhaps the sort of more novel styles of food and the direction of the marketplace. I think young farmers can help make life a lot easier and help embrace the future by taking on this information.
And looking ahead to that future, obviously, depending on which scheme standard you look at, there will be differences between them. But where do you think farm assurance will be in 10 years' time? What do you think it will look like?
I think the aim of assurance has always been to have good, robust, practical standards that people can achieve to provide confidence. And I think there will be changes to sort of help that. I think there could be more automated compliance, data sharing to save farmers actually needing to write the records themselves or enter them. Perhaps the process could be automated more. There might be more assurance apps. There's a growing risk-based approach to auditing that will give a stronger all year round compliance. And I think more reliance on assurance for farm support compliance, perhaps. There may be less on-site visits with the growth of more risk-based assessments and more sort of automated records and so on, and the ability of farmers to use the portals that are out there now to make the actual visit shorter but more concentrated on the practical elements I think is again going to be a really great and positive change.
That's all been really interesting. But just before we go, if someone listening wants to get involved in a scheme or find out more, what can they do to get started?
They could look at the standard owners' websites. They more easily can call our client services team on 01908 249950 or 249973. They can have a look at our website, which is saiassurance.co.uk/agriculture.
Brilliant. Well, that's all we have time for, but many thanks, Robin, for your time and for giving us your thoughts. We hope that you found this podcast useful and wish you the best of luck if you choose to enter a farm assurance scheme, or even if you're just beginning to explore the concept. For now, though, it's goodbye from me and Robin, and thank you very much for listening. This podcast was presented and produced by Ben Eagle for the National Federation of Young Farmers Clubs in association with SAI Global. It featured Robin Levin and was supported by Rowena Curtis and Sarah Palmer. The podcast was funded by Defra.